The boutique fell silent. Under the golden chandelier of Maison Celeste, Millionaire's wife Evelyn Hartman pointed at the pregnant janitor mopping the marble floor. "For our next show," Evelyn said, gesturing toward the janitor, "perhaps she can model the cleaning rags. At least then they'd be useful for once." Laughter rippled through the boutique, bright and cruel. Before we begin, let us know in the comment section where you are watching from. Don't forget to click the subscribe button and like this video. Naomi Brooks felt the heat rise to her face. She wasn't sure if it was humiliation or anger, or both. Her stomach tightened beneath her oversized uniform, her baby shifting gently as if feeling her distress. Evelyn's gaze swept over her belly, lingering there. "How unfortunate," she added lightly. "First the mop, then the baby. Seems she's good at making messes." Another burst of laughter. Naomi's throat constricted. She wanted to disappear. "I'm sorry, ma'am," she managed, voice trembling. "I didn't mean to interrupt your fitting." "Oh, don't apologize," Evelyn said, eyes glinting. "Just finish quickly. The scent of bleach is starting to compete with my perfume." Her friends tittered again as Naomi turned away, her face burning. The marble floor blurred beneath her. All she could think of was breathe, just breathe. From behind her came the quiet chime of champagne glasses clinking together, followed by Evelyn's satisfied murmur, "Really, you'd think places like this would hire better help." What Evelyn didn't know was that this small act of cruelty, one moment of laughter at another woman's expense, would soon unravel everything she'd built. Her reputation, her marriage, her carefully curated image, all of it would crumble because of the woman with the mop. But that reckoning was still to come. Right now, Naomi Brooks only wanted to finish her shift without crying. By 9 o'clock that evening, the store was empty. The only sounds were the rhythmic swish of Naomi's mop and the faint hum of the air conditioning that never seemed to rest. Under the soft overhead lights, Maison Celeste looked almost otherworldly, a palace of glass, silk and silence. Every mannequin was dressed in gowns that cost more than her annual salary. Naomi often wondered what it felt like to wear dreams instead of just cleaning around them. She wrung out the mop, leaned it against the bucket, and stretched her sore back. Her reflection in the mirror startled her, dark circles under her eyes, cheeks pale, and that unmistakable curve of pregnancy that no uniform could hide anymore. 6 months, she reminded herself. Just 3 more until everything changes. The baby kicked softly, and she rested her hand on her stomach. "I know," she whispered. "We're almost there." She'd promised herself she wouldn't cry again at work. Tears didn't help. Money did. That's why she stayed at Maison Celeste, despite the long hours, the swollen feet, the endless whispers behind her back. The boutique offered good insurance, something she couldn't afford to lose. Her baby's safety mattered more than her pride. From the far end of the store, a voice broke the stillness. "Naomi." It was Mr. Patel, the night security guard, his gray hair catching the light as he waved from his post near the glass doors. "You forgot your sandwich again," he said, holding up a paper bag. "Eat before you faint." Naomi smiled faintly and walked over, taking the bag. "You're too kind, Mr. Patel." "Kind?" He chuckled. "I'm selfish. If you faint, I'll be the one filling out the report." She laughed softly. "Thank you anyway." He looked at her belly, then back at her face. "You need rest, Beta. You work like the whole world depends on that mop." She hesitated. "Maybe it does. At least my world does." Patel's eyes softened. "You're stronger than you know." She thanked him again and sat on a nearby bench to eat, watching the streetlights flicker through the boutique's glass facade. Outside, Beverly Hills sparkled like a constellation of human ambition. Inside, Naomi sat in her cheap sneakers, eating a peanut butter sandwich and trying to ignore the ache in her back. When she was younger, Naomi had never imagined this life. 3 years ago, she'd been Naomi Brooks, design student at UCLA. She'd spent her nights sketching gowns and dresses that told stories through fabric, clothes meant for real women, not just red carpets. Her professors called her gifted. She'd believed them. Then she met Alex Rivera, a musician with charm like sunlight, warm but impossible to hold. They'd fallen hard and fast. He'd promised to marry her after graduation. But when the pregnancy test turned positive, his smile disappeared. "I can't do this," he'd said. "I'm not ready to be a father." And that was it. He left her with unpaid tuition, rent due, and a life inside her that refused to stop growing. Naomi worked anywhere she could: diner waitress, night cleaner, grocery clerk. Finally, Maison Celeste called. The pay was steady. The hours were long. But the insurance, God, the insurance, was gold. So here she was, scrubbing floors she once dreamed of designing. Every night, she hummed while she worked, soft melodies she used to sing to herself during design studio sessions. It made the loneliness quieter. Sometimes, when she caught her reflection in a gown's mirror, she whispered, "Someday it'll be different. Someday they'll know my name." She never meant it seriously. It was just something to keep her heart beating when her hope ran low. As the clock neared 10, Naomi finished polishing the last glass display. The scent of lavender cleaner filled the air. She packed away her supplies, humming quietly. The boutique always looked perfect when she left it, clean, quiet, ready for the next day's parade of wealth. From behind the counter, she heard footsteps and glanced up. It was Monique, the assistant store manager. "Naomi, you're still here?" "Almost done," Naomi said. "Just locking up." Monique looked nervous. "You might want to come early tomorrow. We've got a big event. Private fitting." Naomi frowned. "For who?" Monique hesitated, then sighed. "Evelyn Hartman." The name made Naomi's stomach tighten. "The same Evelyn from this morning?" "The same," Monique confirmed. She booked the entire boutique for her pre-gala fitting. Media embargo, high security, everything. Naomi tried to sound calm. "Should I stay out of sight, then?" Monique bit her lip. "That would be wise. She's particular." Particular. That was the polite word for cruel. "Understood," Naomi said quietly. "Thanks," Monique replied, already heading out. "See you in the morning, okay? Try to rest." Naomi nodded and turned back to the mirror. Her reflection looked tired, her hair falling loose from its bun. Tomorrow, the same woman who mocked her would be back, surrounded by cameras, champagne, and luxury. And Naomi? She'd be there too, invisible again, cleaning in the background like a shadow. She sighed and whispered to her baby, "We'll get through it, little one. Just one more day." The city outside was alive with lights, but Naomi's small studio apartment was dim and quiet. She dropped her cleaning bag near the door and sank onto her worn sofa. The apartment was barely big enough for her and the baby she hadn't met yet. The wallpaper peeled. The ceiling fan rattled. But it was hers. She took out her sketchbook from under the coffee table, a relic of a different life. Inside, pages bloomed with pencil drawings, dresses inspired by the moon, the ocean, the soft curve of motherhood. She ran her fingers over the lines. "Maybe one day," she whispered. Her phone buzzed. A message from Jasmine, her coworker. "Did you hear? Evelyn Hartman's coming again tomorrow. Brace yourself." Naomi smiled weakly. "Already heard," she texted back. "I'll keep my head down." But as she lay in bed later, exhaustion pulling at her body, a quiet unease settled in her chest. Something about the day felt unfinished, like the universe had set a trap and she'd already walked into it. She brushed a hand over her belly again. "Whatever happens, we'll be okay," she murmured. "We always are." The baby kicked once, softly, as if agreeing. The sky was a pale watercolor when Naomi stepped off the bus, her uniform crisp, hair tied neatly back. She arrived an hour early, hoping to finish her tasks before Evelyn and her entourage appeared. Inside, Maison Celeste glowed with morning light. The gowns looked even more ethereal in the sun, colors of champagne, rose, and gold gleaming through glass. Naomi began wiping down counters and restocking supplies. Her movements were quiet, deliberate, almost ritualistic. The scent of fresh lilies filled the air. "Morning, Naomi," called Monique, already bustling with papers. "She'll be here by 10. The stylists are on their way." Naomi nodded. "I'll make sure everything's spotless." By 9:30, the boutique looked like a photograph, every dress in place, every mirror shining. Naomi took a moment to catch her breath, gazing out the window at the calm before the storm. A black limousine rolled to a stop outside. Evelyn Hartman stepped out, cameras flashing from across the street. Her sunglasses glinted, her tailored suit immaculate. Behind her trailed two assistants, a makeup artist, and a woman carrying garment bags. Naomi instinctively stepped aside, lowering her gaze. Evelyn's heels clicked on marble like a metronome of power. She didn't acknowledge anyone at first, just glanced around the boutique with the cold assessment of a queen inspecting her throne room. "Good," Evelyn said finally. "At least it doesn't smell like bleach this time." Naomi felt her heart squeeze. She focused on the mop bucket, pretending not to hear. Monique hurried forward, greeting Evelyn with nervous enthusiasm. "Mrs. Hartman, welcome back. Everything is ready for your fitting." "Excellent," Evelyn replied, removing her sunglasses. Her eyes flicked briefly toward Naomi. "And she's still here." Monique tensed. "Naomi's just finishing her duties, ma'am." Evelyn's lips curved into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "How efficient." Naomi stayed silent, wiping down the last counter. Every muscle in her body urged her to stay calm, invisible, obedient. "Make sure the mirrors are spotless," Evelyn said as she swept past. "Wouldn't want fingerprints ruining my reflection." "Yes, ma'am," Naomi whispered. Evelyn disappeared into the fitting room, trailed by her assistants. The doors closed, and the boutique filled with a faint rustle of silk and low murmurs. Naomi exhaled slowly, tension leaking from her shoulders. She moved toward the back room to put away her supplies. Through the door, she heard Evelyn's laughter, bright and cruel, the same as yesterday. Naomi paused, eyes on the shimmering gowns around her. For the first time, she didn't feel envy, just a quiet, growing anger. She didn't know it yet, but that feeling, the first spark of defiance, was the beginning of everything that would come next. Naomi's fingers trembled slightly as she set the mop back in its bucket. The faint echo of Evelyn Hartman's laughter still floated through the boutique like a ghost she couldn't exorcise. She stood for a long moment beneath the chandelier's golden light, watching it refract through crystal onto the marble floor, fragments of perfection she'd been hired to maintain, not inhabit. That laugh, that cutting tone, had done more than sting her pride. It had unearthed something buried, a flicker of memory, a version of herself who once dreamed of creating beauty, not cleaning up after it. As she turned toward the staff hallway, she whispered under her breath, "You don't belong here, do you?" The mop water rippled faintly in reply, like it agreed. 4 years earlier, Naomi Brooks had believed the world could be shaped with fabric and imagination. The sun had been setting over UCLA's arts campus, throwing streaks of orange across the design studio's tall windows. Naomi, then 25, stood over her sewing table, the hum of her machine blending with soft music from her earbuds. Her project, a flowing gown made from recycled silk panels, shimmered under the lamplight. She ran her fingers across the bodice with pride. "Naomi, you're going to win the showcase this year," her friend and roommate Janelle said, leaning against the doorframe. Naomi laughed. "I'll be happy if I just pass Professor Kingsley's critique." Janelle grinned. "You say that every year, and every year you make him cry." Naomi rolled her eyes but smiled. Designing was her oxygen. The way color, line, and fabric came together to tell a story, it was magic to her. She believed fashion wasn't about vanity, it was about transformation. That night, as she packed her sketches, her phone buzzed. A message from Alex lit up the screen. "Dinner tonight? I have something to tell you." Her heart fluttered. They'd been together nearly a year, him, the charming guitarist with messy hair and dreams of record deals. Her, the ambitious designer with fingers always stained with chalk and thread. She thought she knew what his something was. Maybe a proposal. Maybe a promise. Maybe they're forever. She didn't expect the opposite. The cafe was half empty when she arrived. Alex sat by the window, sunglasses still on despite the evening light. When he saw her, he smiled weakly, the kind of smile that warned something was wrong. She slid into the booth. "You look serious." "Yeah," he said, exhaling. "I guess I am." Naomi's pulse quickened. "What is it?" He hesitated, fingers tapping the table. "You're amazing, Naomi. You know that, right? You're talented, beautiful." "Don't," she said softly. "Just tell me." He swallowed hard. "I can't do this anymore." Her heart stopped. "What?" "I'm not ready for this life," he said. "You're talking about the future, about moving in together, about kids." Her throat tightened. "I thought we were building something." "Naomi, I'm 26, he said, looking away. "I can barely afford rent, let alone." He stopped when he saw the tears she was fighting back. "Alex," she whispered, "I'm pregnant." The silence that followed was so heavy it seemed to drain the color from the room. He blinked once. Twice. Then he stood. "I can't. I'm sorry." And just like that, he walked out of her life, leaving her with a cold cup of coffee, an unborn child, and a future collapsing like fabric cut wrong. The following months blurred into survival. Naomi tried to keep up with classes, but morning sickness and exhaustion made everything harder. Her professors noticed her slipping attendance. Her scholarship was revoked after a missed project deadline. She called her parents in San Antonio once, only once. They'd been disappointed when she moved to California to study fashion instead of something practical. Her mother's voice had been heavy on the phone. "Come home, Naomi. We'll help you find work." But going home felt like failure. So she stayed. She moved into a smaller apartment, started working nights at a diner, then as a part-time custodian at an office complex. Each job chipped away at the dream she'd once held like a bright coin in her palm. By the time she applied at Maison Celeste, she was 6 months pregnant and desperate. The manager, Mrs. Alvarez, looked skeptical at first. "Janitorial work is demanding," Mrs. Alvarez warned. "Are you sure you can handle it?" "I'll work harder than anyone," Naomi said. "Please. I need this job." Mrs. Alvarez sighed, then nodded. "We offer full health coverage after 60 days. Don't make me regret this." Naomi hadn't. For almost 2 years now, she'd mopped those marble floors, dusted glass shelves filled with couture, and cleaned mirrors that reflected everything she'd lost. That night after Evelyn's cruel comment, Naomi walked home through the sleeping streets of Beverly Hills. Her feet throbbed, but her mind was louder than her pain. The memory of her old life flickered behind her eyes, the sketches, the laughter, Alex's voice saying, "I can't do this." By the time she reached her apartment, tears had carved lines down her cheeks. She dropped her cleaning bag and went straight to her sketchbook. The pages were soft from use, filled with pencil drawings of dresses she'd never make. She flipped to a blank page and began to draw. The movements were instinctive, lines flowing like breath. A silhouette emerged, a woman standing tall, her gown cascading like waves, the hem shaped like rising wings. It wasn't for anyone. It was for herself. When she finished, she smiled through the blur of tears. "One day," she whispered to the page. The next evening, during her shift, Naomi found Jasmine, another janitor, restocking supplies in the back hallway. Jasmine was in her 40s, small and sturdy, with dark hair streaked with silver and a laugh that made bad days survivable. "You look like a ghost," Jasmine said, squinting at Naomi. "Long night." Naomi smiled faintly. "Something like that." Jasmine handed her a rag. "Then take it slow today. We're not saving the world with this mop." "Feels like we are sometimes," Naomi said. Jasmine laughed. "If the world runs on clean floors and unpaid overtime, maybe." They worked side by side for a while, silent except for the soft swish of mops and faint jazz music drifting from the speakers. After a while, Jasmine said, "I saw that lady, Hartman, right? She came in again today." Naomi stiffened. "Yeah. She's particular." "Particular, my foot," Jasmine muttered. Rich people think kindness costs money. Naomi smiled weakly. Maybe that's why they're so afraid to spend it. Jasmine glanced at her, impressed. You've got a fire in you, girl. Don't let this job snuff it out. I'm just trying to keep it together, Naomi said softly. Jasmine nodded. That's all any of us can do. But sometimes, keeping it together is how you start changing things. Later that night, during her 15-minute break, Naomi sat in the staff lounge with a small notepad. Her hands still smelled faintly of lemon cleaner. She began sketching again, quick, secret lines on the paper. A high neckline, a flowing train, intricate beadwork shaped like raindrops. Those are beautiful, said a voice from the doorway. Naomi jumped. Mr. Patel was leaning against the frame, sipping coffee. They're just doodles, she said quickly, trying to close the notebook. He shook his head. No, they're not. That's art. Naomi blushed. I used to design. Before, she trailed off. He smiled kindly. Before life got complicated? She nodded. Mr. Patel took a slow sip of coffee. You know, my daughter paints. Said she stopped when she had her first child. Thought it was selfish to keep doing what she loved. I told her the opposite. Naomi looked up. The opposite? He nodded. When you stop feeding what makes you feel alive, everything else starves too. His words lingered long after he left. Naomi placed a hand on her belly, feeling a soft kick. Hear that, little one? We're not done yet. The baby kicked again, as if in answer. By midnight, the boutique was spotless. Naomi checked every window, every counter, until she could see her reflection perfectly, a faint ghost moving through marble and glass. Her back ached, and she sank onto a bench near the display window. The city beyond sparkled with 1,000 small fortunes. She hummed softly to herself, an old melody her mother used to sing while baking bread. The notes filled the empty store, sweet and fragile, almost like a lullaby. Her voice wasn't strong, but it was honest. It carried something she hadn't felt in a long time, hope. For a moment, she imagined herself on the other side of the glass, walking in as a designer, not a janitor. People would say her name with admiration instead of impatience. She smiled to herself at the thought, her voice tapering off into the silence. And that's when she heard footsteps behind her. Naomi. She turned. It was Mr. Patel, checking the locks. Still here? He asked. Just finishing up. He nodded. You sing beautifully. Naomi blushed. Old habit. Keep it, he said with a wink. The world needs more soft things. As Naomi packed her bag, Monique, the assistant manager, appeared at the doorway with a clipboard. Hey Naomi, she said, slightly breathless. Quick heads up. Tomorrow morning, Mrs. Hartman's coming in again. Naomi's stomach sank. Again. Yeah, Monique said, flipping through papers. Private fitting, closed event. The owner's pulling out all the stops. Photographers, stylists, even the press. We've been told to keep the place pristine and keep you out of sight. Naomi's heart tightened. Of course. I understand. Monique softened her tone. It's not personal, Naomi. She's just particular about staff visibility during her events. Naomi nodded. It's okay. I'll stay in the back until it's over. Thanks, Monique said, relieved. I knew I could count on you. Get some rest, okay? As Monique left, Naomi stood alone in the empty boutique. The lights dimmed automatically, casting soft golden shadows across the floor. She looked around at the gleaming surfaces, the gowns behind glass, the opulence she touched every day but never truly felt part of. Her reflection gazed back at her from a display window, tired, pregnant, invisible. But beneath that reflection, something stirred, quiet, steady, and alive. The woman with the mop still carried the heart of a designer. And though she didn't know it yet, tomorrow would be the day the world finally looked her way. The next morning, Maison Celeste gleamed like a jewel under the Beverly Hills sun. Light streamed through its floor-to-ceiling windows, bouncing off glass cases and crystal chandeliers until the whole boutique shimmered like liquid gold. The staff moved briskly but silently, adjusting displays, steaming gowns, polishing mirrors until they could see their own anxious faces staring back. To its customers, Maison Celeste was a sanctuary of wealth. To those who worked there, it was a temple to vanity, one where every smudge, every wrinkle, every speck of dust was treated like sin. Naomi arrived 15 minutes early, her uniform freshly pressed, her hair neatly pulled back. The air inside smelled faintly of roses and furniture polish. She liked the mornings before the doors opened, before the perfume of the rich drowned everything else. By the time she filled her bucket and wrung out her mop, she could already feel the nervous tension in the air. The fitting for Evelyn Hartman was no ordinary event. It was a spectacle waiting to happen. Monique, the assistant manager, rushed across the floor holding a clipboard. "Naomi, please keep to the east wing while Mrs. Hartman is here. I don't want her complaining again." Naomi nodded. "Of course. She'll be here any minute." Monique exhaled. "Just make sure everything sparkles." Naomi smiled faintly. "It already does." The soft purr of engines outside announced the arrival before anyone saw her. A black limousine glided to a stop in front of the boutique. Within seconds, two photographers stationed across the street began snapping pictures through the glass. Evelyn Hartman emerged first, tall, poised, wrapped in a cream-colored coat that whispered wealth with every fold. Diamond studs caught the light at her ears. Behind her came two assistants, one balancing garment bags, the other carrying a tablet and latte. "Mrs. Hartman, good morning," Monique said, practically tripping over herself to reach the door. Evelyn stepped inside, removing her sunglasses with a flick of her manicured fingers. Her eyes, cool and sharp, swept over the boutique as though she owned it. "Good morning," she said without smiling. "I hope everything is ready. I don't have time to waste today." "Of course," Monique said quickly. "The main dressing suite has been prepared exactly to your specifications." "Excellent." Evelyn glanced around. "Where's my stylist?" "She's on her way from Rodeo Drive," one of the assistants said. Evelyn's lips pursed. Typical. Fashionably late is only charming when you're the one wearing the dress. Monique laughed nervously, unsure whether she was supposed to. From her place near the back wall, Naomi kept her head down and continued mopping. The faint squeak of the mop on marble was the only sound in the room. She tried to move quietly, invisible, like a shadow. But Evelyn's attention was magnetic. It found flaws the way light found mirrors. "What is that smell?" she asked suddenly, wrinkling her nose. Monique froze. "Smell." "Yes." Evelyn turned slowly, scanning the room. Her gaze landed on Naomi. "That bleach. It's everywhere." Naomi looked up, startled. I'm sorry, ma'am. I was just finishing the floor before you arrived." "Well, you didn't finish soon enough," Evelyn said sharply. "The scent is ruining my perfume." Naomi swallowed hard. "I'll step outside until it fades." "Do," Evelyn said, waving her hand dismissively. "And make sure it doesn't happen again. This isn't a janitor's closet, it's a luxury boutique." Naomi nodded quickly and began moving her cart toward the hallway. Her cheeks burned. She kept her eyes down, afraid that if she looked up, Evelyn would see the humiliation in them. Behind her, Evelyn muttered something to her assistant, who snickered softly. Once in the storage hall, Naomi leaned against the wall and exhaled. The smell of bleach clung to her hands, to her clothes. She wiped her palms on her uniform, though it changed nothing. From where she stood, she could still hear snippets of conversation filtering from the main floor. Evelyn's voice rose and fell in precise, rehearsed tones. "This lighting is too harsh. Fix it. Those gowns should be arranged by designer, not by color. No. The champagne flutes need to be crystal, not glass. Each command cracked through the air like a whip. Naomi peeked around the corner once, just for a moment. Evelyn moved through the boutique with effortless command, her entourage trailing like obedient planets orbiting a sun. The sales associates nodded and smiled at every demand, their professionalism hiding their exhaustion. Naomi could see the stiffness in their shoulders, the quiet fear of offending someone powerful. She wondered what it must feel like to have that kind of control, to walk into a place and know everyone's heartbeat quickened because of you. But the thought didn't bring envy. It brought unease. There was something brittle about Evelyn Hartman's perfection, something that looked ready to crack if touched too roughly. The sound of another car door closing drew everyone's attention. Through the glass, a tall man in a tailored navy suit approached the entrance. Daniel Hartman. Naomi had seen his photo in magazines. Billionaire tech investor, philanthropist, the kind of man who could buy a company before breakfast. In person he looked sharper, older than his pictures, silver threading through dark hair, eyes that missed nothing. The moment he entered, the energy shifted. Even Evelyn straightened slightly. "Daniel," she said, her voice softening into charm. "I didn't expect you here." He smiled faintly. "I had a meeting nearby. Thought I'd check in before the gala prep." Evelyn's tone brightened. "Perfect timing. You can help me choose the gown. Something modern but classic, something that says elegance and power." Daniel gave a polite nod. "Of course." His phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen. "Give me 5 minutes. I just need to handle a call." "Of course you do," Evelyn murmured under her breath, though her smile didn't falter. He stepped aside near one of the displays, speaking quietly into his phone. From the hallway, Naomi continued her work, careful not to draw attention. But when she turned to grab a cloth, she noticed Daniel watching her. Not staring, just noticing. Their eyes met briefly. He gave a small, polite nod before returning to his conversation. There was nothing flirtatious about it, only an acknowledgement that she existed. And somehow, that small gesture of respect meant more to her than all of Evelyn's diamonds combined. By mid-morning, the boutique pulsed with activity. Stylists arrived carrying racks of gowns. Photographers adjusted lighting equipment. A catering service set up a champagne station near the corner. Evelyn floated from one group to another, issuing orders in her honey and vinegar voice. "I told you ivory silk, not white. There's a difference. These shoes are sample size, not custom. Do I look like a sample size? The press will be here in an hour. Why is no one coordinating the floral arrangements?" Her assistants scrambled to keep up. Naomi, confined to the background, wiped counters that were already spotless. Every motion was deliberate, silent, controlled. "Do you think she's happy?" whispered Jasmine, who had joined the shift halfway through the morning. Naomi glanced toward Evelyn. "She looks successful." "That's not what I asked." Naomi smiled faintly. "I don't think happy is part of her vocabulary." Jasmine smirked. "Then let's hope it's contagious." They shared a quiet laugh before splitting up again. Moments later, Evelyn called out, "Where is the manager? The air in here feels stuffy. Are the vents not working?" Monique rushed over. "I'll adjust it right away, Mrs. Hartman." "Do that," Evelyn said. "And tell housekeeping to use less bleach next time. I refuse to have my clothes smell like cleaning supplies." Naomi's hands froze on her cloth. Her clothes didn't smell like bleach, they smelled like survival. She took a steadying breath, then turned away before Evelyn could notice the flash of anger in her eyes. An hour later, the boutique buzzed with chatter. Evelyn's two friends, both impeccably dressed, lounged on the velvet sofa near the display windows sipping champagne. "Darling," said one, "your husband is far too handsome to be left unsupervised. You're lucky I adore you or I'd steal him myself." Evelyn smiled thinly. "You'd be bored in a week. He's married to his work." They laughed, but something flickered in Evelyn's eyes, something tight and defensive. The other woman leaned closer. Still, the two of you are perfect. Everyone says you're the golden couple. Yes, Evelyn replied, the word catching slightly. Perfect. Naomi overheard as she polished the mirrors behind them. The word perfect sounded brittle, like glass under pressure. Evelyn's friends continued gossiping about a rival socialite's failed charity gala, about the rising cost of rare handbags, about who'd had a little work done. To them, the boutique was a stage. To Naomi, it was a reminder that beauty could be both armor and weapon. When she caught sight of her own reflection between theirs, she saw the contrast clearly. One woman bathed in diamonds, the other in bleach. Daniel finished his call and joined the group, slipping his phone into his pocket. Ready? He asked. Evelyn gestured toward the fitting room. As I'll ever be. While she disappeared with her stylist, Daniel wandered briefly through the boutique, examining a few of the displays. He paused near where Naomi was polishing a glass case. Excuse me, he said. Naomi turned quickly. Yes, sir. He pointed at a faint streak she hadn't noticed. You missed a spot. Oh, sorry, she said, grabbing her cloth to fix it. He smiled faintly. You're thorough. That's rare these days. Thank you. Before she could say more, Evelyn's voice sliced through the air from the fitting room. Daniel, I need your opinion. He gave Naomi a brief nod and turned away. When he disappeared behind the curtain, Naomi exhaled slowly. The interaction had lasted seconds, but it left her oddly unsettled, not because of what he said, but because for a moment she felt seen. When Evelyn emerged again, she wore a gown that shimmered like liquid silver. The fabric hugged her figure perfectly, the diamonds at her throat caught every glint of light. The staff murmured polite compliments. Her friends applauded. Flawless, one said. Breathtaking, said another. Evelyn smiled, basking in the praise. I do have a gift for making perfection look effortless. Her eyes drifted toward Naomi, who was quietly sweeping near the back wall. Evelyn's expression shifted, just slightly, but enough for Naomi to feel it. Their gazes locked. For a heartbeat, the boutique seemed to hold its breath. Then Evelyn's smile returned, colder this time. Someone should tell the janitorial staff not to loiter during fittings. It's distracting. Monique hurried over. Of course, Mrs. Hartman. Naomi, why don't you finish in the back room? Naomi hesitated. Yes, ma'am. She started to leave, but before she disappeared down the hallway, she glanced back once. Evelyn was standing under the chandelier, radiant, untouchable, surrounded by laughter and admiration. Yet for all her sparkle, there was something hollow in her eyes, a mirror too polished to reflect anything real. Naomi turned away, her heart thudding. She didn't know why she felt it, but she was certain of one thing: this wouldn't be the last time their worlds collided. And next time, it wouldn't be Naomi who bowed her head. The boutique smelled of perfume and champagne. Soft jazz floated through hidden speakers, the kind of music meant to make money sound like elegance. The morning rush had passed, leaving Maison Celeste gleaming and ready for its private fitting, a spectacle Evelyn Hartman had orchestrated down to the last sequin. Naomi had been told to stay invisible. Invisible meant no eye contact, no lingering, no sound beyond the soft rhythm of a mop. She was almost done with the far side of the boutique when she heard the laughter, light, polished, expensive laughter, from the fitting suite. Bring the next gown. Evelyn called out, her voice slicing through the air like crystal. Moments later, the stylist rolled out a rack of gowns, each glittering under the boutique lights. Evelyn stood in front of a large mirror, wrapped in the shimmer of silver fabric that cascaded to the floor. The gown looked like liquid moonlight, the kind of dress that silenced rooms and emptied wallets. Her two friends, Olivia and Grace, sat nearby, sipping champagne from crystal flutes. Evelyn, you look divine, Olivia said. That dress could end wars. Evelyn turned in front of the mirror, admiring herself. Well, if peace could be bought with couture, I'd be the world's greatest diplomat. The room erupted with laughter. Naomi kept her head down and continued wiping a glass case near the entrance, pretending not to hear. She wished she could disappear into the marble. Does anyone else think it's too safe? Evelyn said suddenly, turning toward her reflection. It's beautiful, yes, but I want impact. Something unforgettable. Unforgettable. Grace repeated. Darling, you could walk in wearing a napkin and people would faint. Evelyn smiled faintly, tilting her head. Perhaps. But I want the kind of moment that trends. Her eyes drifted lazily across the room and landed on Naomi. The janitor was crouched beside a display, wiping a spill that didn't exist. Her uniform hung loose over her growing belly. Strands of hair escaped her bun and clung to her flushed cheeks. Evelyn murmured, her smile sharpening. Actually, I just had an idea. Grace followed her gaze. Oh, Evelyn, no. Oh, yes, Evelyn interrupted. What's the point of beauty if you can't have a little fun with it? She turned to her stylist. Bring her over. Naomi froze. I'm sorry, ma'am. You heard me, Evelyn said sweetly. Come here. I need a second opinion. Naomi hesitated, the mop still in her hand. Every instinct told her to retreat, but disobeying a client like Evelyn could cost her the job. Slowly, she stepped forward, eyes downcast. Evelyn faced her reflection again. Be honest, darling, she said to Naomi. Does this dress make me look too perfect? Naomi blinked, unsure how to answer. No, ma'am. It's beautiful. Evelyn smirked. Of course it is. But then again, beauty is a matter of perspective, isn't it? What would someone like you consider beautiful? Olivia snorted into her drink. Grace looked uncomfortable. I think, Naomi began softly, true beauty comes from how something makes you feel, not what it costs. The laughter that followed was like shattering glass. Evelyn turned, mock surprised. Oh, how poetic. Did you read that on a greeting card, or did it come to you while scrubbing toilets? Naomi's cheeks flamed. I didn't mean. Oh, I'm sure you didn't. Evelyn's tone turned syrupy. Tell me, dear, how many hours does one have to mop floors to afford this dress? Naomi stayed silent. Evelyn gestured to the silver gown. Would you like to try it on? Perhaps it'll motivate you to reach higher. Olivia giggled. Evelyn, stop. But the laughter didn't stop, it spread. Go on, Evelyn pressed. It would be quite the picture, wouldn't it? The janitor in designer couture. Naomi's throat tightened. Please, ma'am. I just want to finish my work. Evelyn turned to her friends. She's shy. Come on, darling, it's a joke. No one's laughing at you, we're laughing with you. I don't think. Evelyn raised her voice. Don't you have a sense of humor? You people always take things so seriously. Someone in the back, one of the assistants, had taken out their phone, recording discreetly. Evelyn noticed and smiled wider. Tell you what, she said. I'll make it worth your while. Double your hourly wage for 1 minute of your time. Try on the gown. Give us a show. Naomi shook her head. No, thank you. The laughter deepened, crueler now, like wolves circling. Oh, come on, Olivia coaxed, perhaps trying to defuse the tension but failing miserably. It's just a bit of fun. Evelyn stepped closer, her heels clicking like judgment. It's fine, sweetheart. You clean up after us. Surely you've wondered what it's like to be us. Naomi took a step back, her hands trembling. Please. I don't want any trouble. Evelyn's smile vanished. Her voice hardened. Everything in this world is about appearances. You should be grateful someone like me is offering you a moment in the spotlight. Naomi felt the heat rise to her face. You don't have to be cruel. Evelyn's gaze narrowed. Sweetheart, I don't have to be. I choose to be. The words hung in the air, poisonous and perfect. Then came the laughter again, louder this time, bouncing off marble, echoing through every corner of Maison Celeste. Naomi's hands balled into fists. She wanted to cry, to scream, to run, but she did none of those things. Instead, she stood there, still and silent, while the laughter crashed over her like waves. Inside, something shifted. It wasn't anger, not yet, it was resolve. If Evelyn Hartman wanted to see a woman break, she'd have to look somewhere else. Naomi straightened her back. "May I return to work now?" she asked softly. Evelyn blinked, caught off guard by her composure. "Excuse me. I have floors to finish," Naomi said. For a moment, no one spoke. The silence was sharp. Then Evelyn laughed, high and brittle. "By all means, darling. We wouldn't want to stand between you and your mop." More laughter. The phone camera caught it all, the silver gown, the diamonds, the cruel smile, and the pregnant janitor turning away. Naomi gripped the handle of her mop so tightly her knuckles whitened. She wouldn't cry here. Not in front of them. The boutique's front door chimed. "Mr. Hartman." Monique's voice rang out, relief flooding her tone. "We weren't expecting you." The laughter stopped. Daniel Hartman stepped inside, removing his sunglasses. His gaze swept across the room, taking in the scene, the half-empty champagne glasses, the awkward smiles, the phone camera still pointed toward Naomi. And then his eyes found his wife. "Daniel." Evelyn said, too brightly. "You're early." He didn't answer. His gaze moved from her to Naomi, whose eyes were fixed on the floor. He took in the scene with unnerving stillness. "What's going on here?" Evelyn laughed nervously. "Oh, just a little fun. The staff was giving us feedback on the dress." Daniel's expression didn't change. It didn't look like fun. Evelyn's voice faltered. "Darling, really, you're overreacting." Daniel looked at Naomi. "Are you all right?" Naomi hesitated. "I'm fine, sir." "You don't look fine." "I just want to go back to work." He nodded slowly. Then he turned to Evelyn. "Is this how you treat people?" The question landed like thunder. The room went utterly still. Even the air seemed to freeze. Evelyn blinked, taken aback. "Daniel, it was just a joke." "No," he said quietly. "A joke makes people laugh. This," he gestured toward Naomi, "makes them small." No one spoke. The assistants exchanged nervous glances. The woman with the phone slowly lowered it. Evelyn's smile wavered. "You're embarrassing me." Daniel met her gaze. "You've done that yourself." He turned to Naomi. "Take the rest of the day off." "I thank you, sir, but—" "That's not a request." Naomi nodded, clutching her cleaning cloth to her chest. She hurried toward the hallway, keeping her head down. Her heart pounded, every step echoing louder than the laughter had. Behind her, Evelyn's voice hissed through clenched teeth. "I can't believe you just undermined me in front of everyone." Daniel's answer was soft but lethal. "I can't believe I had to." Naomi slipped into the back corridor, leaning against the wall. The sound of her heartbeat drowned everything else. Her hands trembled as she pressed them over her chest. She wasn't sure what hurt more, the humiliation or the strange, unexpected kindness of Daniel's defense. In her pocket, her phone buzzed, a message from Jasmine. "Jasmine, are you okay? I saw someone recording. Be careful." Naomi stared at the words, a chill running through her. "Recording?" She looked back toward the boutique. Through the glass, she could still see Evelyn, poised and fuming, diamonds flashing like armor. Daniel stood beside her, silent and cold. Naomi didn't know it yet, but the video captured that moment, the mockery, the arrogance, the husband's quiet fury. And within hours, it would find its way to every corner of the internet. For now, all she could do was breathe. When she finally stepped outside, the afternoon sun hit her face like warmth she didn't deserve. She stood on the sidewalk, breathing in air that didn't smell like bleach or perfume. Her reflection in the glass door looked foreign. Tired eyes, streaks of sweat, a faint tremor in her lips. She told herself she'd forget it. She had to. But some moments carve themselves into you, even when you wish they wouldn't. Inside, Evelyn's laughter had already resumed, brittle and false. Outside, Naomi turned away from the boutique and whispered to herself, "One day this will all mean something." She didn't yet know how right she was. Morning sunlight spilled through the blinds of Naomi's tiny studio apartment, slicing across the cracked white walls and the stack of folded uniforms on her chair. The city outside was waking up, engines rumbling, horns blaring, a dog barking somewhere down the street, but inside, everything felt heavy and still. Naomi sat at the edge of her bed, hands cradling a chipped coffee mug that had long gone cold. Her mop and cleaning supplies leaned neatly against the corner, a silent reminder that another shift awaited her. But she didn't know if she could go back. The night before replayed in her mind on an endless loop, Evelyn's smirk, the laughter, the camera phone glinting like an accusation. And then Daniel's voice, quiet, controlled, cutting through it all like mercy. "Is this how you treat people, Evelyn?" The words had echoed in her chest long after she left the boutique. Naomi rubbed her eyes, fighting back the exhaustion. The baby had been restless all night, kicking as though it sensed her unrest. "I know," she whispered to her belly. "Mama's tired too." A sharp ache of humiliation pulsed behind her ribs. She could still feel the burn of every gaze in that room, the way the laughter seemed to scrape at her dignity. What if someone had recorded it? What if it ended up online? The thought made her stomach twist. She couldn't bear the idea of strangers watching her worst moment, judging her, pitying her. Maybe quitting would be best. But quitting meant losing her paycheck, her insurance, the fragile security she'd managed to build. She couldn't afford that, not now, not 6 months pregnant, with rent due in 2 weeks. She took a shaky breath and forced herself up. "Just get through today," she murmured. "One more day." When Naomi arrived at Maison Celeste that morning, the boutique was unervingly quiet. The usual air of perfection felt fractured somehow, a vase slightly askew, a tension humming just below the surface. Monique gave her a quick nod from behind the register, but avoided eye contact. "Morning, Naomi." "Morning," Naomi said softly. Monique hesitated, lowering her voice. "Mrs. Hartman won't be in until this afternoon. We're prepping for her next fitting." Naomi's heart sank. She had hoped Evelyn would be gone for good. Monique seemed to sense her unease. "Don't worry. She's difficult, but yesterday's over. Just keep your head down, okay?" Naomi nodded, forcing a smile. "I will." She grabbed her supplies and slipped into the back hallway, the only place in the boutique that felt remotely her own. Inside the cramped janitor's closet, the air smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and dust. The walls were plastered with reminders of past shifts, supply schedules, notes from management, and Naomi's quiet secret, sketches. Hundreds of them, tucked between old order forms and cleaning logs, dresses, blouses, accessories, all drawn in pencil and ink, some on napkins, others on recycled paper. Her secret world of color in a place built on silence. She took one out and smoothed it with her hand. It was a gown she'd imagined months ago, flowing chiffon, delicate beadwork along the neckline, inspired by the soft shape of a crescent moon. For a moment, she allowed herself to dream again. Then a knock at the door startled her. She jumped, quickly hiding the sketch behind a box of detergent. "Come in," she said, voice trembling slightly. The door opened, and Daniel Hartman stepped inside. "Mr. Hartman," she breathed, startled. I didn't expect you here." He offered a faint smile. "I asked Monique where I could find you. Hope I'm not intruding." "No, sir. I was just," she glanced at the mop in her hand, embarrassed. "Cleaning." He nodded, stepping into the narrow space. His suit was perfectly pressed, but there was something different about him this morning, a quiet gravity in his expression. "I wanted to apologize," he said. Naomi blinked. "You don't have to." "Yes, I do." His tone was firm but kind. "What my wife did yesterday was unacceptable. You didn't deserve that." Naomi's throat tightened. "Thank you, sir." He studied her for a moment. "You handled yourself with remarkable composure." "I didn't feel composed," she admitted. "I felt small." He shook his head. "You shouldn't. People like Evelyn mistake kindness for weakness. Don't let them convince you of that." His gaze drifted to the corner, to the papers sticking out from behind the detergent box. "What's this?" Naomi's eyes widened. "Oh, just nothing. Old notes." He reached over gently, pulling out the sketches. Dozens spilled into his hands, a fluttering storm of lines and color. "These are yours." Naomi's face flushed. "Yes, sir. It's just a hobby. I used to study design before, well, before everything changed." Daniel looked through the pages slowly, his eyes narrowing in concentration. "These are good." She laughed nervously. "You don't have to say that." "I'm not being polite," he said. "You have an eye for structure and texture. That's rare. Most designers chase trends. You sketch emotion." Naomi froze, stunned by the sincerity in his tone. "You really think so?" He looked up, meeting her eyes. "I know so." A moment of silence passed between them, filled with something unspoken. Respect, perhaps. Recognition. Daniel placed the sketches carefully on the shelf. "Don't hide this talent, Naomi. You have something worth seeing." Her voice wavered. "It's hard to believe that when I spend my nights scrubbing floors." He smiled faintly. "Every empire starts somewhere humble. You're just building yours from the ground up, literally." She couldn't help it, she laughed softly. "That's one way to look at it." The sound seemed to ease him, and for a brief second, the distance between Billionaire and Janitor disappeared. Then his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, his expression tightening. "I have to take this." Naomi nodded. "Of course. Thank you, Mr. Hartman." He paused at the door. "Call me Daniel. And if anyone gives you trouble again, anyone, you come straight to me." "Yes, sir." When he left, Naomi exhaled slowly, her heart racing. She looked at her sketches, her secret life now exposed, and for the first time in a long while, she felt something spark inside her that wasn't fear. Hope. In the main boutique, the assistant who had filmed the incident, a young woman named Lila, sat behind the counter, scrolling through her phone. She'd recorded the video mostly out of shock, intending to delete it once things calmed down. But the memory of Evelyn's laughter, the cruelty of that joke, kept gnawing at her. She replayed the clip, Evelyn in her silver gown, Naomi's tearful restraint, Daniel's icy question. "Is this how you treat people, Evelyn?" The line hit harder every time. Before she could talk herself out of it, Lila opened her social media app, selected the clip, and typed, "Millionaire's wife mocks pregnant janitor. Watch her husband's reaction." She hesitated for a moment, thumb hovering over the post button. Then she pressed it. Within minutes, it had 100 views. Within an hour, 10,000. By nightfall, it would pass 1 million. That same afternoon, Evelyn swept into Maison Celeste again, as radiant and untouchable as ever. The silver gown had been returned to the rack, but her pride gleamed brighter than the fabric ever could. She carried herself like someone who believed the world still adored her. "Monique," she said briskly, "we'll need a new selection for the gala. The last collection didn't feel dramatic enough." "Of course, Mrs. Hartman." Evelyn turned to her assistant. "Has Vogue confirmed the photographer for next week's feature?" "Yes, ma'am. They said they'd love to include a few shots from your charity foundation as well." Evelyn smiled. "Perfect. Let's remind the world what grace looks like." As she walked past the display window, she caught sight of her reflection and paused. "Flawless," she murmured. "Utterly flawless." Behind her, two stylists exchanged uneasy glances. They'd seen the video. Everyone had by now. But none of them dared say a word. By evening, the video had exploded across every platform. Influencers reposted it with captions like "When karma walks in wearing a suit," and "The moment decency defeated cruelty." Fashion blogs dissected it frame by frame. Talk shows picked it up as a morality story. Comments flooded in by the thousands. That poor woman. Evelyn Hartman should be ashamed. The way her husband handled that, wow. Naomi had no idea. She spent her evening scrubbing the storage room, headphones in, humming softly to her unborn child. When she returned home, she turned off her phone without checking notifications. She needed silence. She needed peace. Across the city, however, Evelyn's phone was anything but silent. It started with a ping. Then another. And another. Evelyn frowned, scrolling through her notifications. Her name was everywhere: Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. At first, she assumed it was about her upcoming gala. Then she saw the title. Millionaire's wife mocks pregnant janitor. Watch her husband's reaction. The thumbnail was unmistakable, her own face mid-laugh, Naomi standing behind her with tears in her eyes. "What the?" Evelyn whispered, tapping it open. Her own words echoed back at her, each one slicing deeper than she remembered. "You don't have to be cruel. Sweetheart, I don't have to be, I choose to be." The sound of laughter filled the boutique speakers again, mocking her from the screen. Her breath quickened. No. No, this can't. Another notification popped up. Then another. Then hundreds. Every major gossip outlet had picked it up. Hashtags flooded her feed. Hashtag cancel Evelyn. Hashtag justice for Naomi. Hashtag be kind challenge. Her flawless image, the one she'd built through charity galas, photo spreads, and socialite brunches, cracked before her eyes. "Turn this off," she snapped at her assistant, who stood frozen nearby. "Take it down. Now." "We can't, ma'am. It's everywhere." "Then fix it." Evelyn shouted, her voice trembling. "Call the PR team, call anyone." But it was too late. The internet had already made its judgment. Meanwhile, across town, Daniel sat in his office, scrolling through the same video. He'd seen the look on his wife's face enough times to know it wasn't guilt that bothered her, it was exposure. His assistant stepped in. "Sir, would you like me to release a statement?" Daniel shook his head slowly. "Not yet." "Then what should I do?" He looked out the window, his reflection blending with the city lights. "Watch," he said quietly. "The truth is doing my work for me." That night, Naomi's phone buzzed non-stop on her bedside table. She ignored it at first, thinking it was spam, until Jasmine called. "Naomi," Jasmine said breathlessly, "you need to see this." Naomi frowned. "See what?" "Just check your messages." Reluctantly, Naomi opened her phone. Dozens of unread notifications lit the screen: texts, mentions, friend requests, links. She clicked one. And froze. There she was, in her janitor uniform, standing in the middle of the boutique, Evelyn laughing in her face. The entire world watching. The title burned across the screen: Millionaire's wife humiliates pregnant janitor. Watch her husband's reaction. Naomi's heart pounded as the view count climbed in real time. 10K.100K.1 million. She covered her mouth, torn between horror and disbelief. Somewhere across the city, Evelyn was staring at the same video, but while Naomi trembled in shock, Evelyn's world was beginning to crumble. By dawn, Maison Celeste was no longer just a luxury boutique, it was a battlefield of flashing cameras, reporters, and chaos. Photographers clustered outside the glass entrance like vultures around a wounded creature. Boom mics hovered over the doors. Headlines screamed from every tablet and phone in sight. Millionaire's wife mocks pregnant janitor. Watch her husband's reaction. Socialite Evelyn Hartman faces public backlash after cruel viral video. The pregnant janitor everyone's talking about. The story had exploded overnight. Naomi Brooks had gone from invisible to infamous. Inside her apartment, Naomi's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Dozens of missed calls. Hundreds of unread messages. Her social media, which had been dormant for years, overflowed with notifications. "You're so brave. Can we interview you for our channel?" I cried watching that video. It was overwhelming, terrifying, even. She hadn't wanted any of this. Her neighbor, Jasmine, showed up at her door with wide eyes and a laptop in hand. "Naomi," she said breathlessly. "It's everywhere. TikTok, YouTube, the news, you name it." Naomi hesitated before sitting beside her. The video loaded instantly. There she was, standing in the boutique, clutching her mop while Evelyn laughed, diamonds flashing. The comments scrolled faster than Naomi could read. I hope she gets fired. No one talks to a pregnant woman like that. The husband's face says it all. When the clip reached Daniel's voice, his calm, icy rebuke, Naomi felt her chest tighten. Is this how you treat people, Evelyn? The words hit harder now, echoing like a reckoning. Naomi shook her head, horrified. I don't want to be a story. Jasmine smiled softly. Too late for that. You are the story. Across town, in the Hartman's penthouse suite, Evelyn's morning began with chaos. Shut it off, she screamed at her assistant, hurling her tablet onto the marble counter. Why is it still online? I thought we had this handled. Her PR manager's voice crackled through the speakerphone. Mrs. Hartman, we've been issuing takedown requests all night, but the video's been re-uploaded hundreds of times. It's out of our control. Evelyn paced the room, silk robe swirling. Then control it. I have a reputation, charity boards, endorsements, this can't destroy me. It's already affecting your partnerships, the PR manager said carefully. The Women of Influence Foundation postponed your gala speech. Some of your sponsors are reconsidering. Reconsidering. Evelyn snapped. I am the foundation. Without me, half of these events wouldn't exist. Her assistant looked down, avoiding her gaze. Ma'am, your followers are dropping by the minute. Evelyn froze, disbelief flooding her face. What? 30,000 overnight. And people are tagging your sponsors. The color drained from her cheeks. She snatched her phone, scrolling through comments. Rich doesn't mean right. Imagine humiliating a pregnant woman for fun. Karma wears couture. Her hand trembled. Call Daniel, she said finally, voice low and cold. He'll fix this. He always does. But Daniel didn't answer. At that same moment, Daniel Hartman sat in his office downtown, scrolling through the same video his wife had tried to bury. He'd watched it a dozen times by now. Each time, he felt the same knot of shame tightening in his chest. He wasn't ashamed of Evelyn's cruelty, he'd seen glimpses of that before, but of himself, for letting it go unchecked for so long. His assistant, Mark, entered quietly. Sir, the press is asking for a statement. They're camped outside the building. Daniel rubbed his temples. Issue 1. Mark hesitated. Would you like to approve the draft first? Daniel shook his head. I trust you. Just make sure it says one thing clearly, that our company doesn't stand behind cruelty, no matter who it comes from. Yes, sir. Daniel stared at the muted television on his wall. News anchors dissected the video on repeat. Split-screen panels showed Evelyn's face on one side, Naomi's on the other, one radiant with arrogance, the other bowed in quiet dignity. He exhaled slowly. Get me a meeting with the owner of Maison Celeste. And Naomi Brooks. Today. At Maison Celeste, Naomi was scrubbing the same display window where it had all happened, trying to ignore the cameras pressed against the glass outside. Every few seconds, a flash went off, and reporters shouted questions. Naomi, how do you feel about the video? Did you know Evelyn Hartman personally? Is it true you're suing? She ducked her head, gripping the mop like a shield. Monique appeared beside her, flustered. Naomi, Mr. Hartman called. He wants you in the office upstairs. Immediately. Naomi blinked. Me. Yes, you. Her hands went cold. Am I in trouble? Monique smiled faintly. Not this time. The boutique's private office smelled faintly of polished wood and jasmine candles. The owner, Mr. Laurent, sat behind his glass desk, an elegant man with silver hair and the calm confidence of someone who'd survived decades in fashion. Daniel stood near the window, his phone face down on the table. When Naomi entered, she froze. She'd expected anger, maybe formality, but Daniel smiled softly and gestured for her to sit. Naomi, he said. Thank you for coming. Of course, sir. Mr. Laurent cleared his throat. Mr. Hartman has just shared your sketches with me. Naomi's heart skipped. My sketches. Daniel nodded. I told him about your designs. He was impressed. Laurent spread the papers across the desk. The rough pencil drawings looked out of place in such a pristine setting, but there was beauty in their imperfection. These are remarkable, Laurent said, eyes scanning each page. Raw, emotional. You designed these yourself? Yes, sir. Just ideas. Nothing professional. Nonsense. Laurent smiled. They remind me of my early work. Naomi blinked, hardly believing what she was hearing. Daniel turned to Laurent. I have a proposal. The Celeste Gala is in 3 weeks. I want to sponsor a new initiative, Rising Voices. It'll feature emerging designers who represent resilience and authenticity. I want Naomi to lead it. Naomi gasped. Lead it. Laurent leaned back in thought. It's bold. But bold sells. Especially now, with the public watching. It could redefine our image after recent events. Daniel nodded. Exactly. The brand stands for elegance and humanity. This is our chance to prove it. Naomi shook her head, overwhelmed. I don't know if I'm ready for something like that. Daniel's tone softened. You're more ready than you think. The door burst open. Daniel. Evelyn's voice sliced through the air. She stormed into the room, sunglasses hiding her bloodshot eyes, her phone clutched like a weapon. Her assistant trailed helplessly behind. What is this meeting? She demanded. Why is she here? Daniel didn't flinch. We're discussing the upcoming gala. With her. Evelyn spat, turning on Naomi. You're joking. Evelyn. She's a janitor, Daniel. A janitor. You can't be serious. Naomi lowered her gaze, but Daniel's calm voice cut through the tension. I'm very serious. Evelyn laughed, but it came out brittle. You're humiliating me. No, Daniel said. You did that yourself. Her face paled. You can't possibly think. Daniel's tone stayed even. Naomi's designs will be featured at the gala. The store owner has agreed to collaborate with her under the Rising Voices program. Evelyn's mouth fell open. You're replacing me at my own event with her? Daniel met her gaze. I'm not replacing you, Evelyn. I'm removing you. The words landed like thunder. Laurent's pen slipped from his hand. Naomi froze, every nerve alive. Evelyn's voice trembled. You can't remove me. I am the face of this gala. Not anymore, Daniel said quietly. Not after that video. The brand can't afford to be associated with cruelty. And frankly, neither can I. Evelyn's jaw clenched. You're making a mistake. Daniel's expression hardened. No. I'm correcting one. The silence that followed was suffocating. Evelyn turned to Naomi, eyes blazing. You think this makes you better than me? You'll always be what you are, a maid pretending to matter. Naomi's lips trembled, but she forced herself to speak. I never wanted to take anything from you, Mrs. Hartman. I just wanted to be treated like a person. That quiet truth hit harder than any insult. Daniel exhaled. Naomi, you don't have to respond to her. Evelyn let out a sharp, humorless laugh. Oh, don't act like some hero, Daniel. You think this makes you noble? You're using her to punish me. Daniel met her glare evenly. No. I'm helping someone who deserves it. Her composure finally cracked. You'll regret this, she hissed. I already regret what came before, he said simply. Evelyn's hand trembled as she adjusted her sunglasses. Fine. Enjoy your little charity project. Let's see how far your janitor gets without my name. She turned sharply and strode out, her heels clicking like gunshots on marble. The door shut behind her, leaving a heavy stillness in her wake. Naomi sat frozen, barely breathing. Laurent finally spoke, breaking the silence. "Well," he said softly, "that was dramatic." Daniel turned to Naomi, his voice gentler again. "You didn't deserve that, either." She shook her head. "I don't understand why you're doing this." "Because you remind me of why I started building things," he said. "Not for money or reputation, but to give people like you a chance to rise." Tears pricked her eyes. "I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Laurent said with a warm smile. "Let's show the world what real beauty looks like." Naomi nodded slowly, still stunned. "Yes." Daniel extended his hand. "Then it's settled. You'll be the lead designer for the Rising Voices line." Naomi hesitated before taking his hand. His grip was firm, reassuring. It felt like the first solid thing she'd touched in months. Outside, reporters were already buzzing about Evelyn's meltdown. Someone had caught her storming out of the boutique on video, and the internet was devouring every frame. Evelyn Hartman fired from her own gala. The pregnant janitor replaces the millionaire's wife. Hollywood reacts. Inside, Naomi remained in the office, still trying to process what had just happened. Daniel was talking logistics with Laurent, outlining press releases and sponsorship details, but she could barely hear them. Her hands trembled. This couldn't be real. Just days ago, she'd been scrubbing the floor. Now they were talking about her as if she belonged in the spotlight. When the meeting finally ended, Daniel walked her to the door. "You're going to do great things, Naomi," he said quietly. "Just promise me one thing. Don't lose the humility that makes your work special." She nodded. "I won't." He smiled. "I believe you." As she stepped into the sunlight outside, flashes erupted from cameras across the street. Microphones thrust forward. "Naomi, is it true you're designing for Maison Celeste? How does it feel to replace Evelyn Hartman? Do you have a message for her?" Naomi shielded her face, murmuring softly, "No comment." But inside, her heart whispered something else, something fierce and defiant. "I'm not invisible anymore." Meanwhile, inside her penthouse, Evelyn stood before her mirror, staring at her reflection. Her perfect hair, her flawless skin, all of it suddenly looked like armor cracking under pressure. She gripped the edge of her vanity, her reflection blurring through tears of rage. "They think they've won," she whispered. "But I'm not finished." Her lips curled into a cold, controlled smile. "Not by a long shot." The empire began to crumble quietly, then all at once. In the span of a week, Evelyn Hartman went from Beverly Hills royalty to public enemy #1. The video had done what no rival, scandal, or rumor ever could. It stripped away her perfection and showed the world the venom beneath the diamonds. By Monday morning, every major outlet had picked up the story. Millionaire's wife faces backlash for mocking pregnant janitor. Evelyn Hartman, from philanthropist to pariah. When kindness goes viral, and cruelty crashes. The hashtags trended globally. #CancelEvelyn, #Justice for Naomi, #BeKindChallenge. What had once been Evelyn's kingdom, the glittering world of galas, luncheons, and luxury brand deals, turned against her overnight. The paparazzi camped outside her penthouse, their flashes bursting like fireworks every time she stepped outside. "Evelyn, any comment on the viral video? Do you regret mocking the janitor? Has your husband left you?" She ignored them all, hiding behind oversized sunglasses and a trembling facade of poise. But inside, her composure was fracturing. Her assistant, Tessa, hovered in the background as Evelyn hurled another magazine across the room. It landed with a sharp slap against the marble floor. On the cover, her own face glared back at her beside the headline. "Evelyn Hartman, the face of fallen grace." "Lies," Evelyn spat. "All of it." Tessa hesitated. "Mrs. Hartman, the foundation board called. They've decided to suspend your position until the investigation clears." Evelyn froze. "Investigation? What investigation?" "They're reviewing the video and the staff complaints." "Complaints?" Tessa winced. A few former employees have come forward with similar stories about your behavior. Evelyn's breath caught. They're nobodies. Bitter people looking for attention. I know, Tessa murmured, though her tone held more pity than agreement. But the sponsors are pulling out too. Dior, Estée Lauder, the Luminara skincare campaign gone. The words hit like hammer blows. Evelyn staggered to the counter, gripping the edge for balance. No. Not Dior. I'm their global ambassador. Not anymore, Tessa said softly. They released a statement an hour ago. They're replacing you with. Don't say it. Naomi Brooks. The silence that followed was deafening. Evelyn's nails dug into the marble. A janitor is taking my brand deal? She's not a janitor anymore, Tessa said gently. She's the face of the Rising Voices campaign. People love her. They say she represents authenticity. Evelyn's voice turned to ice. Authenticity? She's a charity case wearing my hand-me-downs. Actually, Tessa corrected cautiously, she's wearing her own designs. Evelyn's laugh cracked. Of course she is. Desperation set in like a fever. That evening, Evelyn gathered her PR team in her penthouse living room. Half of them showed up late, the rest avoided her eyes. We need to shift the narrative, Evelyn began, pacing. We'll release a statement, say the video was taken out of context. That I was joking. That I'm heartbroken this misunderstanding has hurt people. Her PR manager, a polished woman named Claire, shook her head. That won't work. The footage is too clear. You can't deny it. Then we'll apologize, Evelyn snapped. A public video, something heartfelt. I'll say I've learned from this experience, that I'm starting a kindness initiative or some nonsense. Claire exchanged a look with another team member. We tried that yesterday. The public response was unkind. Evelyn frowned. What do you mean? Claire opened her tablet and played a clip of Evelyn's pre-recorded apology from the day before, her eyes wide, voice trembling, every word rehearsed. I want to extend my deepest apologies to the woman in that video. I was under stress that day. My words were inappropriate. I'm committed to being better. Beneath the video, the comments scrolled mercilessly. She's only sorry she got caught. Crocodile tears. Try donating humility next time. People aren't buying it, Claire said. They can smell when an apology's fake. Evelyn slammed her hand on the table. Then what am I supposed to do? Let them destroy me. Claire hesitated, then spoke carefully. You might consider stepping back for a while. Let things quiet down. Step back. Evelyn echoed. I don't step back. I lead. I host. I command. Claire sighed. Then maybe it's time to ask yourself what you're leading toward. Evelyn's lips trembled with fury. You're fired. Claire packed her things without a word. 2 days later, the final blow arrived, not from the tabloids, but from Daniel. He stood in the doorway of their penthouse office, hands in his pockets, his expression unreadable. Evelyn, he said quietly, we need to talk. She turned, pale but defiant. If this is about the video, it's about everything. She swallowed. You're angry. I understand. But this will blow over. It always does. Daniel shook his head. Not this time. She blinked. What are you saying? He set a document on the desk between them. Legal papers. Clean. Final. Daniel, she whispered, you're not. I'm filing for separation, he said simply. Irreconcilable values. The words hung in the air like smoke. Her knees went weak. You can't mean that. We've built everything together. No, he said softly. I built everything. You built the image. Tears welled in her eyes. You can't leave me over this. Daniel's voice was calm, but there was a sharpness in it now, years of quiet disappointment finally surfacing. It's not about the video, Evelyn. It's about what the video revealed. She reached for him, but he stepped back. "You think she's better than me?" she spat. "That janitor you're parading around like a saint?" Daniel sighed. "No, Evelyn. I just think she's real." He turned toward the door. Her voice broke. "Daniel, please don't do this." He paused but didn't turn around. "I already did." The door shut behind him with a soft, irrevocable click. While Evelyn's world imploded, Naomi's quietly bloomed. She moved into a small but sunlit studio apartment in downtown Los Angeles, courtesy of the Rising Voices program. The walls were bare except for a corkboard covered in sketches, her own designs, soon to become part of the Maison Celeste Gala collection. The first morning in her new home, she stood by the window with a cup of tea, watching the city come alive below. For once, she felt something close to peace. Jasmine had helped her move in the night before. "You know," she'd said, handing Naomi a framed photo, "you're officially internet famous. People love you." Naomi had laughed softly. "That's what scares me." "Don't be scared," Jasmine said. "Be proud. You earned this." Now alone in the quiet morning, Naomi touched the photo on her nightstand, a picture of her and her mother from years ago, smiling outside their little bakery in San Antonio. Her throat tightened. "I wish you could see this, Mama," she whispered. 2 days later, Naomi took a bus to San Antonio. The sky was pale blue, the air heavy with the scent of earth and wildflowers. She walked up the gravel path of the small cemetery, her belly now noticeably round beneath her loose dress. Her mother's headstone stood beneath an old oak tree. Lucia Brooks, beloved mother and dreamer. Naomi knelt, brushing a stray leaf from the stone. "I did it, Mama," she said softly. "I made it out of the dark." Her voice cracked. "I don't know what comes next, but I promise you, this baby will have the life you wanted for me. No more scrubbing floors. No more being invisible." A breeze stirred the branches above her, and for a moment, it felt like her mother was listening. Tears spilled down her cheeks. She smiled through them. "You always told me good things grow from hard soil. I guess you were right." By the time she returned to Los Angeles, Naomi's name was everywhere. Fashion magazines hailed her as the voice of new luxury. Talk shows invited her for interviews. Her social media followers surged past 1 million. She handled it with quiet grace, answering messages with gratitude, declining most interviews except one, a sit-down conversation with Harper Lane, a well-known journalist known for empathy over scandal. The interview aired on national television that Friday evening. The studio lights glowed warm, but Naomi sat calm and steady in her pastel dress. "Naomi," Harper began, "a few months ago, you were cleaning floors. Now, your designs are the centerpiece of Maison Celeste's next gala. How does that feel?" Naomi smiled gently. "Unreal. But I think, sometimes life breaks you down so it can rebuild you stronger." Harper leaned forward. "And Evelyn Hartman? Have you spoken to her since the video?" Naomi hesitated, then shook her head. "No. And I don't hate her. I think hate is just another kind of prison." Harper's expression softened. "That's remarkably gracious." Naomi's eyes glistened. "I spent too long being small. I won't waste my second chance being bitter." The interview ended with a standing ovation from the studio audience. Within hours, clips from the broadcast went viral. Comments poured in. "This woman is pure grace. She's everything Evelyn pretended to be." Naomi Brooks for president. That same night, Evelyn sat alone in her darkened penthouse, the flicker of the television washing over her face. Naomi's interview filled the screen, the gentle voice, the humility, the warmth. The same qualities Evelyn had spent her life faking, now effortlessly embodied by the woman she'd once mocked. Her wineglass trembled in her hand. "They love her," she whispered. "They actually love her." The camera cut to Naomi laughing, eyes bright, a hand resting protectively on her belly. Evelyn's reflection stared back from the blank TV frame, tired, brittle, hollow. She threw the glass. It shattered against the marble wall, wine spilling like blood across the floor. Her phone buzzed on the counter. A notification from her lawyer. Finalized, Hartman versus Hartman, separation confirmed. Evelyn's knees gave out. She sank to the floor, shards of glass glittering around her like broken jewels. Her empire, her husband, her sponsors, her friends, gone. And in her place, the woman she had tried to humiliate now shone like the very star Evelyn once believed herself to be. Somewhere across the city, Naomi watched the same broadcast replay with Jasmine beside her, tears still in her eyes. "I guess the world finally saw the real me," she murmured. Jasmine smiled. "And the real her." Naomi looked out the window, where the city lights shimmered against the night. Far away, in her empty penthouse, Evelyn stared at that same skyline with a look of cold, unyielding hatred. For the first time in her life, no one was watching her. No one cared. But even in her ruin, one thought burned through the ashes of her pride. If Naomi Brooks had stolen her spotlight, then she would find a way to steal it back. The night of the Celeste Gala arrived bathed in silver light. Los Angeles shimmered like a diamond, cars gliding through rain-washed streets, cameras flashing outside the grand Art Deco hall of Maison Celeste's annual charity gala. It was the event of the year. But this year, it wasn't Evelyn Hartman's name on the banners. It was Naomi Brooks. Backstage, Naomi stood before a full-length mirror, hands trembling as she adjusted the pearl clasp at her neck. She wore one of her own designs, a soft ivory gown with hand-stitched embroidery that rippled like waves when she moved. Her baby bump showed faintly beneath the fabric, a quiet reminder of how far she'd come. She took a deep breath, trying to calm the rhythm of her heart. "You look like you belong here," Jasmine said from behind her, eyes wide with pride. Naomi smiled nervously. "I don't feel like I do." Jasmine placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then fake it for tonight, and by tomorrow, you'll realize you didn't have to." Naomi laughed softly, brushing a stray tear from her cheek. "You always know what to say." The distant hum of music filtered through the heavy curtains. Guests were arriving: politicians, actors, designers, philanthropists. Reporters gathered near the red carpet, their microphones ready for stories. And every one of them had come to see her. In the grand ballroom, chandeliers glowed like constellations. Tables draped in gold silk surrounded a glossy runway that shimmered beneath soft spotlights. Daniel Hartman sat in the front row beside the boutique's owner, Mr. Laurent. His gaze was steady, proud, the faintest smile playing at his lips as he looked toward the stage. Beside him sat Mr. Patel, the security guard from Maison Celeste. His brown suit was slightly wrinkled, his grin so wide it made the photographers chuckle. "That's my girl," he whispered to no one in particular. The room buzzed with curiosity. Whispers rippled like wind through tall grass. "Who is this Naomi Brooks?" "She's the designer who used to mop floors at Celeste." "Really? Incredible. Apparently her husband left her while she was pregnant. She's still doing this? Unbelievable." Daniel heard them but said nothing. Let them talk. Tonight would silence every skeptic in the room. Across the city, in a penthouse once filled with noise and luxury, Evelyn Hartman sat alone before her television. The gala broadcast streamed live across major networks, an irony she could not escape, since she'd once owned those screens with her image. She wore no diamonds tonight. No photographers waited outside her door. Only silence, broken by the flicker of the TV. Naomi's face appeared on screen, radiant, nervous, glowing. Evelyn's jaw tightened. "Enjoy it while it lasts," she muttered, though the venom lacked conviction. But the moment she saw Daniel in the front row, clapping for another woman's success, a sharp pain bloomed in her chest. She lifted her wine glass, but her hand trembled so badly she set it back down. For the first time, Evelyn understood what it meant to be outside looking in. The lights dimmed. A hush fell over the ballroom. Then the first model stepped onto the runway, wearing a gown that took the audience's breath away. It was simple yet striking. Pale blue satin with soft pleats that flowed like water, embroidered with tiny stars along the hem. The announcer's voice filled the hall, presenting Naomi Brooks, the Resilience Collection. Each design that followed told a story. There was a crimson dress inspired by courage, its folds shaped like blooming roses. A golden gown that shimmered like sunrise, hope rising after darkness. And one piece that drew audible gasps, a sheer flowing ivory piece reminiscent of a mother's embrace, its train subtly shaped like angel wings. Naomi had poured her soul into each thread. Every stitch carried memory, her mother's laughter, the quiet nights mopping marble floors, the ache of loss, and the defiant joy of survival. By the time the final model walked, applause was already breaking through the air. And when Naomi finally stepped onto the stage, the audience rose to its feet. Naomi stood at the microphone, her voice trembling at first, then finding its strength. 2 years ago, she began, I was cleaning the floors of Maison Celeste while the world I dreamed of passed me by. The room stilled. I thought people like me were invisible, that dreams belonged only to those born high enough to touch them. But then something happened. Her eyes glistened as she looked at Daniel, who met her gaze with quiet encouragement. I learned that kindness, courage, and dignity aren't luxuries, they're choices. And sometimes, the people standing at the bottom carry more grace than those sitting at the top. The audience held its breath. This collection, she said, voice steady now, is for everyone who's ever been made to feel small by someone standing taller. For the workers, the mothers, the dreamers, for the people who keep shining even when no one's watching. Her hand brushed the curve of her belly. We rise, not because others allow us to, but because we were never meant to stay down. For a moment, silence blanketed the room. Then, like a wave breaking, the applause came, roaring, thunderous, unending. Tears streamed down Naomi's face as she bowed. Mr. Patel stood first, clapping so hard his palms turned red. Jasmine joined in, her own tears shining like glitter. Then Daniel rose, his expression filled with pride so deep it softened the entire room. One by one, every guest stood. It wasn't just a standing ovation, it was absolution. Cameras flashed, capturing the moment that would headline the morning papers. Journalists scribbled feverishly as Naomi's name echoed through the room, chanted like a victory song. Naomi. 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 Daniel leaned toward Laurent and said quietly, "Told you she'd change everything." Laurent smiled. "She already has." Back in her penthouse, Evelyn watched it all unfold in chilling silence. She tried to turn off the television, but her hand froze over the remote. The sight of Naomi bowing beneath the bright lights, pregnant, radiant, adored, was unbearable. Then the camera caught Daniel clapping in the front row, eyes fixed on Naomi with unmistakable admiration. Something inside Evelyn cracked. She rose, pacing, muttering to herself. They're fools. All of them. This sympathy act won't last. She'll slip. They always slip. But her voice wavered, hollow. Even she didn't believe her own words anymore. When Naomi's final words replayed on the broadcast, "We all rise, one stitch at a time," Evelyn turned off the TV and stared at her reflection in the dark screen. For the first time in her life, she couldn't recognize the woman looking back. After the show, the gala turned into a whirlwind of congratulations. Champagne corks popped, cameras clicked, laughter filled the air. Naomi moved through the crowd, accepting hugs and kind words. She felt dazed, almost untethered, like she was watching someone else's life unfold. Jasmine appeared beside her with a glass of sparkling cider. "They love you," she whispered. "Do you even realize what you've done tonight?" Naomi smiled faintly. "I think I'm still processing it." "Then let me help," Jasmine said, raising her glass. "To you." To the girl who turned a mop into a magic wand. Naomi laughed, clinking her glass against Jasmine's. "To us. And to second chances." Nearby, Mr. Patel wiped his eyes discreetly, pretending to fix his tie. "That girl," he murmured proudly, "was always meant to shine." Daniel approached then, hands in his pockets, that same quiet warmth in his eyes. "Congratulations," he said softly. "Thank you," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "You did something extraordinary tonight." Naomi smiled. "I just told the truth." He nodded. "That's what made it extraordinary." For a brief moment, their eyes met, no pretense, no pity, just two people who had witnessed each other's transformation. Then someone called Naomi's name from across the room, and she excused herself, disappearing back into the celebration. Daniel watched her go, a flicker of something unreadable crossing his face. Later, as the evening wound down and the crowd began to thin, Naomi stepped outside for a breath of air. The city lights stretched endlessly before her, glittering like the stars she used to draw in her sketchbooks. The cool night breeze brushed against her skin. She rested her hands on her belly, smiling softly. "Did you feel that?" she whispered as her baby kicked. "We did it." It was as if her child understood, responding to the pulse of triumph that hummed through her veins. For the first time, Naomi didn't feel like she was standing in someone else's world. She was the world, strong, radiant, unbreakable. By sunrise, her story was everywhere. Vogue, from mop to muse, Naomi Brooks redefines the meaning of grace. The New York Times, how a humiliated janitor became fashion's new voice of humanity. Los Angeles Herald, Naomi Brooks steals the gala, and the world's heart. Social media overflowed with admiration. "I've never cried over a fashion show before. This is what real beauty looks like. Naomi Brooks, you've given us hope." Meanwhile, a single photo dominated the internet. Naomi standing under the spotlight, one hand on her belly, tears in her eyes, the caption reading, "She rose." In her quiet apartment that morning, Naomi watched the sunrise through her window. The city glowed gold, alive and awake. On her work table, new sketches waited, designs filled with light, courage, and color. Jasmine had left a note beside them. "The world's watching now. Don't stop creating." Naomi smiled, picking up her pencil. "I won't." She placed her hand over her heart, then over her belly. "Thank you," she whispered, to her mother, to her baby, to the girl she used to be. The girl who scrubbed marble floors, dreaming of something more. Now, she no longer had to dream. She had arrived. The morning sun streamed through the tall windows of Naomi's new studio, painting the white walls with gold. Rolls of fabric stood like sentinels along the shelves, silk, chiffon, and cotton in every shade of courage she had ever known. At the center of the room, a wooden cradle swayed gently, and inside it, her newborn daughter slept, wrapped in a soft handmade blanket. Naomi sat nearby at her sewing table, the rhythmic hum of her machine blending with the baby's slow breathing. Each stitch she made was deliberate, measured, patient, steady. 6 months had passed since the Celeste Gala. 6 months since her world had shifted from survival to creation. Now, Naomi Brooks was not the janitor people once ignored. She was the name whispered in fashion circles as a symbol of rebirth, a woman who had stitched her pain into beauty. Her label, Brooks Atelier, had become a small but powerful force. Orders flooded in faster than she could manage, not just for dresses, but for hope. And hope, Naomi had learned, never went out of style. "Are you sure about the name?" Daniel asked, standing in the doorway of her studio one afternoon, holding a folder embossed with gold lettering. Naomi smiled. "It's your foundation. You could have called it anything." He shook his head. "No. It's our foundation. And it's inspired by you." On the cover, in elegant serif type, were the words, "The Brooks Initiative, empowering disadvantaged designers worldwide." Naomi touched the lettering gently, her voice quiet. "It's beautiful." "It's long overdue," Daniel said. "Talent shouldn't depend on privilege. We'll fund scholarships, mentorships, and internships. People like you, people who've been overlooked, will finally have a door open to them." Naomi looked up at him, emotion softening her eyes. "You really believe in this?" He smiled. "You made me believe." Their eyes held for a moment longer than either expected, unspoken gratitude shimmering between them, something tender but unhurried. The baby stirred in her cradle, breaking the silence. Naomi turned to soothe her, brushing tiny curls from her daughter's forehead. Daniel watched her quietly, something warm flickering across his features, a blend of admiration and something deeper, quieter, that neither dared name. Across the ocean, in a quiet village on the French Riviera, Evelyn Hartman stood on a weathered balcony overlooking the sea. The sunlight danced on the waves, but she barely noticed. Her once golden hair hung limp, her manicured nails unpainted. The tabloids no longer chased her. The charity boards had erased her name from every guest list. The friends who once toasted her vanished the moment her scandal ceased to trend. She had sold the penthouse in Los Angeles, the luxury cars, the jewels, even her membership at the country club. All that remained were memories, and a single bitter truth she could no longer escape. For years, she had built her identity on wealth and reputation, believing kindness was weakness and humility a costume. Now, she lived among strangers who knew her only as the quiet American woman who kept to herself. And sometimes, late at night, she replayed that moment in the boutique, the laughter, the flash of a camera, the expression on Naomi's face. She had thought it was power. Now she knew it was poison. Evelyn sipped her tea and stared at the sea, wondering if anyone would ever remember her for anything other than cruelty. In Los Angeles, Naomi's days fell into a new rhythm: feedings, fittings, and fabric. Her daughter, Maya, grew fast, her tiny fingers always reaching for the bright scraps of cloth that fell from her mother's table. Naomi often laughed softly, telling her, "You'll be designing before you can walk." Between motherhood and her brand, Naomi's schedule was relentless, yet she felt more alive than ever. Sometimes Daniel stopped by, dropping off documents or simply checking in. He never stayed too long, never overstayed his welcome, but his presence was a quiet reassurance. "You need more help," he told her once, looking around the bustling workshop where assistants moved between tables. "I'm working on it," she said with a playful smile. "I'm still learning to delegate." "You're learning fast," he said. "Just don't forget to rest. Even miracles need sleep." She laughed. "I'll rest when the world stops needing dresses." One afternoon, Naomi returned to Maison Celeste, this time, not with a mop, but with a sketch portfolio and a press invitation. The boutique had invited her for a feature in Harper's Vogue collective, celebrating designers who had risen from unexpected beginnings. The marble floors gleamed as always, but now the staff greeted her with smiles instead of indifference. Mr. Patel, now head of security, beamed as she entered. "Our superstar returns," he said warmly. Naomi hugged him. "You kept me safe here when no one else cared. Thank you." He patted her back, eyes misty. "I just did my job. You did the impossible." In the corner, a young janitor mopped near the display window, a teenage girl with wide brown eyes and a shy smile. Naomi noticed the girl scribbling something on a piece of napkin during her break. She walked over. "What are you drawing?" The girl blushed. "Just dresses, ma'am. It's silly." Naomi crouched beside her, looking at the sketch. It was rough but full of imagination. "It's not silly. It's talent." "You think so?" "I know so," Naomi said gently. "Keep drawing. Don't ever let anyone make you feel small." The girl's eyes brightened, gratitude spilling out like light. "Thank you. I'll try." As Naomi walked away, she smiled to herself. The cycle had begun again, but this time, she was on the side of kindness. Later that night, Naomi sat in her apartment, rocking Maya to sleep. The television played softly in the background, a news segment about the Brooks Initiative's first scholarship recipient. The reporter's voice said, "Founded by philanthropist Daniel Hartman and designer Naomi Brooks, the foundation aims to empower young creatives from underprivileged backgrounds." Naomi looked at her daughter's sleeping face, peaceful and perfect. "You see, Bella," she whispered, "we're building something that lasts." Outside, the city lights shimmered, reflecting off the window like stars scattered across glass. Naomi rose, walking to her sewing table. On the wall above it hung her mother's old framed quote, the one she'd brought from San Antonio years ago. "When life breaks you down, stitch yourself back together." She smiled softly, whispering the words aloud. "Stitch by stitch." Then she turned to the corner of her studio, where her old mop leaned quietly against the wall, clean and used, yet polished like a relic. She'd kept it intentionally, not out of nostalgia, but remembrance. The same tool that once symbolized invisibility now stood as proof of how far she'd come. A knock came at her door. It was Daniel, holding a bouquet of white lilies. "Congratulations," he said with a shy grin. "Your designs just got picked up for the Paris showcase." Naomi gasped. "Are you serious?" "Very. They called me this morning." She laughed, tears brimming. "I can't believe it." "I can," he said softly. They stood there for a moment, neither sure what to say. Finally, Naomi spoke. "Thank you, Daniel. For everything. For believing in me when no one else did." He shook his head. "You don't owe me thanks. You just reminded me what real success looks like." Their eyes met, and for a fleeting second, the air between them shifted, gentle, unspoken, tender. Then Maya stirred in her crib, breaking the moment. Naomi smiled, turning back to her daughter. "Seems someone wants to join the celebration." Daniel chuckled. "Smart kid. She knows when history's being made." Naomi looked at him over her shoulder, her expression calm, glowing. "Maybe not history," she said. "Just healing." Meanwhile in France, Evelyn walked along the shoreline barefoot, the cool waves lapping at her ankles. The world had forgotten her, but in that forgetting, she had found something she'd never known before: silence that didn't hurt. She lived simply now, tending a small garden, helping at a local shelter. The arrogance that once defined her had faded, replaced by quiet humility. Sometimes, she saw news of Naomi's success in passing, a headline at a cafe, a photo in a magazine rack. Each time, she felt a twist of regret, but also a strange sense of peace. The woman she'd once mocked had become the woman she herself might have admired, had she been brave enough to look inward. Evelyn bent down, picked up a small seashell, and whispered, "I hope she forgives me someday." The sea said nothing, but the wind carried away her words like a confession. Months later, Naomi sat on her balcony after putting Maya to sleep. The night was calm, the city below pulsing with distant life. She thought of the path that had brought her here, the heartbreak, the humiliation, the small acts of kindness that became stepping stones toward grace. Her mind returned to that day at Maison Celeste, when laughter had cut through her like a blade. She wasn't angry anymore. Not even bitter. Just grateful. Because that cruelty had forged her strength. And strength, she realized, was the truest form of beauty. She spoke softly to the stars. "When you try to shame the humble, you end up bowing to them instead." The words lingered in the night air, part prayer, part truth, part victory. The next morning, Naomi arrived early at her studio. Sunlight spilled across her table as she threaded her needle, a gentle hum escaping her lips, the same tune she once sang while mopping floors. Maya cooed softly from her cradle, the melody wrapping around them both like a lullaby. Naomi smiled, remembering her mother's voice, Mr. Patel's encouragement, Jasmine's friendship, Daniel's faith, all the pieces of her journey stitched into one tapestry. She bent over her fabric, the needle gliding through silk like memory through time. In the corner, the mop handle caught the sunlight, its metallic sheen reflecting onto the wall, no longer a symbol of servitude, but of transformation. Naomi looked at it, her voice barely a whisper. "Some people chase diamonds," she said, guiding the final stitch into place. "Others learn how to shine without them."
Thank you for watching this story. If this moved you, leave a comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the videos on your screen to watch more powerful stories just like these.